Right, live pictures of the United States Capitol. We're waiting for the President of the United States to arrive. He's having lunch with Senate Republicans on the agenda tax reform, but there's a great deal of anticipation here because of the failures in past months to, say, repeal and replace Obamacare, because of a reigniting of the feud today between the President and Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee. Even senators can have a sense of humor about these things. I want to show you a photo. Republican Senator Tom Tillis. Oh, here comes the President right now. We'll watch the President's motorcade arrive here on Capitol Hill. If there's any way to split the screen, I'd like to also show you Tom Tillis as we wait for the motorcade to come, and these are long motorcades. Welcome to Washington, D.C. Tom Tillis, Republican Senator of North Carolina, about to head up to this meeting, filling up a big bag of popcorn. Asked if he was bringing the popcorn up for the Corker-Trump fight, he says yes. If you're waiting in anticipation of these photos, Control, you're going to wait a long time. Presidential motorcades in Washington, D.C. go a long way here. The President arriving on Capitol Hill. Let's talk. I guess we're fascinated to show the D.C. Police Department and their great equipment. There's the President's motorcade coming into the White House right now. We're making light of this because of the personal feud. But again, we are about 10 months into the Trump presidency. They have zero big legislative wins. Our Jeff Zeleny saying the president wants to press them to move more quickly to confirm his nominees who are still waiting. Now, the president was late to nominate a lot of these people, and the Democrats have taken every advantage they can to then slow the pace down when it gets up there. So the president will push not just for tax reform, perhaps suggesting the Senate stay in on the weekends. Jeff Zelany's reporting to get some of the nominees through before the end of the year. So kicking the can a bit there. But the big question here is, A, tax reform, B, with the subset of the relationship, because the relationship was not where it needed to be to get Obamacare done. The question is, can they get there? And the president's going to be in this room. He's fighting today with Bob Corker. He's been fighting in recent days, and this one goes back a while. It has a history with Senator John McCain. There are others like moderate Susan Collins, more moderate Lisa Murkowski, who disagreed with the president, not just on the substance of Obamacare, but on how he went about the debate. You've had Ben Sasse, the senator from Nebraska, tweeting that the president misbehaves too often, doesn't speak in a way that he finds to be, shall we say, civic-minded. It only takes two Republicans to take the train off the tracks because they have a 52-48 majority. Is there any expectation that the president tries to make things better, or does the senators, the one most I talk to, think that the president's not going to change, therefore how do we navigate this?
And they have tried to change. The senators are trying to change. I think as we watch, the president's probably going from the first floor to the second floor as we speak to go into the Mansfield room right off the Senate chamber where they have these lunches. He is known to charm people. I mean, that's what he does. This is a very unusual time. It is very tense because it is coming off of several hours of, rhetorical combat with the Senate Foreign Relations Chair, who's going to be in that room. I'm wondering how many food tasters are going to be there before they actually take bites of their lunch. There you see him, probably the president coming around. But I think that it's going to be hard to imagine that it will get as tense mano a mano as it has via Twitter and the television.
And it's always a great opportunity just to see the United States Senate. For those of you who don't get to Washington, don't get to see the Capitol. And it's a cool thing to go through. It's a history lesson. Whether the president's there or not, it's a great history lesson. It also happens at a time, we haven't mentioned this, when the president has said he understands his friend Steve Bannon saying, I'm going to target all these Senate incumbents, but that he doesn't agree with him on the particular races. I assume one of the things the president's going to be asked, and you see the president coming down the hall in the United States Senate, is, are you going to speak out publicly about this? Are you going to have our back? And you see him there walking with a man who has the most interesting job in Washington, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is no fan of how the president conducts himself on a day-to-day basis. But as you mentioned in your interview Sunday, was saying he deserves more credit. He doesn't give himself enough credit, playing the flattery game, which works with the president.
Remember when the president said that about he's not sure about Steve Bannon, that was after a meeting with Mitch McConnell at the White House. They both came out and gave that last week. That was last week, right? Gave that press conference. This is something McConnell has sort of realized, okay, I'm going to have to play ball with him if we want to save this 2018, this majority in 2018. Yeah. The problem with all of this is that individual senators are sort of hard and unwieldy.
As Michael speaks, we're just showing you the scrum on Capitol Hill. There are a lot of reporters up there anyway, but when the president makes a rare visit, it gets a little more interesting, shall we say, not always civil. Please.
They're the ones who are up for re-election, right? The senators, not the president, as you pointed out, John. And I think the senators on the bubble with taxes, McCain, Susan Collins, Rand Paul, Bob Corker, they're not going to be charmed by the president. We've seen this. What he needs to do is shape the bill in a way that doesn't tank the provisions they need to get their votes. He needs to, for instance, his tweet about 401ks, if that ends up being, tweeted by him on a separate provision that is needed to get their votes, that could scuttle things down the road. I think he has an important role to play there. I also want to point out there's a bit of a bifurcated argument he's making with regard to the economy. On one hand, he's saying things are going terrific. You know, we're doing great with jobs and the market's doing very well. And on the other hand, he's saying the economy is shackled by our high taxes. There's a truth there in that nuance, which is that one of the reasons the market has done so well this year is in anticipation of these tax cuts. You could have a perfect storm brewing where if Congress fails to deliver, that expectation goes away, the markets could tank, Republicans' political prospects could tank, and that would just be a disaster for them.
What a lot of senators really want today is very basic answers. What do you want in a tax bill? What is it going to take to get health care legislation through? The thing with Trump is, in previous administrations, a president would walk into meetings like this with a very clear list of what clear answers he was going to give. With President Trump, who knows where this conversation could go today? Who knows what is on his mind as he walks into this room, or who's going to catch his eye, or what one question is going to spur him to say something? Who knows? Like, we don't know what could come out of this.
The White House doesn't know.
Well, that's an excellent point, though. The president's own senior staff doesn't know because they make promises to Capitol Hill. And then the president watches something on cable television in the morning and starts tweeting about it. That's one of the big things. They want him to say, Mr. President, talk broadly about tax reform. Talk about how great it is. Talk about how important it is. Don't get into the details. Let us do that part. But they have no confidence that the president will listen to them when they say that.
No, not at all.
I got an email right before, about an hour ago, from someone at the White House. Said, well, what's on the agenda with this meeting? Just aggressive push for tax reform. Not even a period at the end of the sentence. It's just, it is about as vague as possible because as nobody knows with this president.
Nobody does know. High drama on Capitol Hill. The President of the United States, a rare luncheon with Senate Republicans at a time of great tension, both on the policy of tax reform and his personal feuds with several Republican senators, one of them reigniting again today with Senator Bob Corker. We're going to take a very quick break. Wolf Blitzer will continue to cover this dramatic story of the president live on Capitol Hill in just a moment.